Hello, hello. I am Karen Jean-François, and this is the Women in Data podcast. A podcast where every other week I interview some of the most inspiring women working in data. They discuss how data is used in various industries, share their knowledge and experience in the field, and equip you with tips to help you overcome challenges on your career and feel great. Let's get straight to it. I am joined today by Salla Franzén, investment manager, and I am not going to say the name of the company she's working at because I will get that wrong. I will leave her to introduce it when she does her own introduction. But in today's episode, we're going to talk about various topics to do with leadership and setting up teams for success. And this episode is one that I'm very excited about because Salla has an amazing story. Having moved from finance to retail, back to finance, changing industries, really. She has amazing mentoring stories and also an incredible way of setting up her team for success, what that means for her team members and the organization. I couldn't be more excited about having Salla on the podcast for this reason. Hi, Salla.
Hi, it's super nice to be here. I've been looking forward to this. Yeah.
It's funny how we're already starting the episode laughing because I'm just being silly. I'm completely unprepared and I do not know what I'm doing today. So we will see how that goes. Before we dig into today's topic, can I invite you to introduce yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Salla Franzén. I'm currently working as an investment manager at Navigare Ventures, which is a venture company that invests in early stage tech and research related companies. And I have a background in math, so I studied 10 years of mathematics because I thought it was so much fun, and then ended up going into finance because I just figured that it could be quite interesting mathematical problems to solve there. And ended up staying for quite some time. And then the last 2 years, I was at IKEA, working with the web and the app and all the digital touch points that are in the stores. So super fun, completely different, really nice to work in a company with such a very value-based company. And now it's really nice to be back in Stockholm again.
Yeah. So you've been moving industry. So you went, as you said, from finance to retail to IKEA, where you were looking after their data team. And now you're back in the finance world, but you've also moved countries quite a bit during these life changes. Yep. And I find it fascinating how you can actually change industry as a leader, because people tend to tell me quite often, when you work in any role, but especially in data, if you want to become a leader in the industry, you need to specialize quite early and then know which industry you want to be in, so you know all the problems and how you can solve them with data. But you've proven that it's not necessarily the case. So I would love to hear more about that. What are your tips to do that successfully?
I would say that I wouldn't at all agree that you have to stay in the same industry. I mean, obviously I haven't done that myself. But for me, it's also very much, I think it's because I have, a long background in math and I really like mathematics. And I think for me, sort of, when you use data to try to solve problems in business, you're really sort of applying mathematics on different kinds of problems, but the mathematics is the same. So for me, I have this sort of passion and curiosity to understand more and more about either the world or the company that I'm working in or the team that I'm managing. And for me, sort of, that's what drives me. And I think that's an important thing to have, to know what it is that drives you as a person, what gives you joy. Because if you have a job that gives you joy, then you will be successful. Because how could you not be? At least you'll have fun, and fun is important in life.
I love that. This sounds this sounds great. It's amazing that at such an advanced stage in your career, you're actually thinking about work as being fun and making sure that it's something that you're enjoying doing. It's really great. So something you mentioned around the passion and curiosity. So we know that as data people, we have to be curious anyways, because things move fast. We need to learn. But also to dig into data, you have to be curious to understand what's happening. But what you're talking about is a curiosity outside of these data thing. It's the curiosity, as you said, of the industry and understanding the problems. And I guess that leads quite well to how you started your career, moving from mathematics to the finance industry, which was an industry you didn't know much about, I guess, as a graduate. How did you manage to establish yourself there?
Yeah, I mean, I think I was very lucky. It took me a while. Having studied 10 years of math, people kind of tended to think that I was probably a bit of an odd person because this was before mathematics was something that was sort of a bit more mainstream. So it took a while for me to find a job. And I think a friend of mine said very accurately that when you have a PhD in math, you just need to find one person who understands what it is that you can do, and then you'll be fine. And I think that's kind of what happened for me. So I ended up working in a small hedge fund. So it was myself, I was 30 at the time, and the two founders of the hedge fund, who were both 50 and childhood friends, had grown up together. And they somehow, I think they saw something in me, probably because they gave me a chance to try to learn as much as I could in their company. And it was just fantastic. They would spend time sort of explaining how the markets work. We'd look at graphs. They'd help me introduce me to all the clients that we had. I was doing presentations. They really sort of pushed my boundaries, but were also incredibly supportive. And I think that's so key, allowing for humans around you to grow by, constantly giving them small challenges and then checking if they're okay with that challenge or if it's too much or too little, but always having their back, because that's how we can grow as humans. Being able to sort of try your wings in new places constantly, I think is very rewarding.
This is very true. So what they've done basically is providing you with a safe space to learn and make mistakes, so that you can grow from there. That's such a gift. As you said, you were saying you're lucky, but that's really such a gift to have as a first job, because it
Yes.
really sets you up for success for later. And then you have like first-hand experience of what great management and leadership looks like.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think because I've been managing people now for maybe the last 10, 12 years, something like that. And I think for me, what I really enjoy with it is allowing for people to grow, trying to understand the individual in the team, and then seeing how you can kind of maybe help or nudge or introduce them to new people or introduce them to something that might be interesting for them, and then seeing them grow over the years. And I think, yeah, that's definitely something that I always do. I'm always kind of in touch with people that I think have massive potential or are really kind or just, pleasant. And I really like trying to help them figure out their next step if they are up for it.
This is,
And I do feel like it's important to give back. Yeah.
and I'm like, can I come work with you? I don't know anything. I don't know anything about finance, but I can learn.
Exactly.
um, so do you have an example, maybe like a brief example of how you've actually applied that? Because you mentioned helping people, well, introduce people to others, helping them grow, helping them figure out their next steps. How would you go about doing that?
Yeah. Well, I think actively listening, because quite often people already know what they want, and then if you really listen, then they will tell you what it is they want, and sometimes they might feel a bit lost and just need to have a couple of ears that they can talk into and hear what they are saying themselves. So I think, yeah, I mean, I've over the years I've had many students who've done master's theses for me or bachelor's theses, because I think that's super interesting to help even quite young people to start to find their first jobs. and quite successfully managed to sort of place them in nice places after finishing their thesis. I have a lot of both friends and colleagues and team members that where either I've been helped or I've helped them over the years. And it's almost like we have this network of people who just like to help. And it's super. I mean, I really enjoy it. It's sort of constantly, oh, this person is really good. You should talk to her. And then you should probably talk to that person. And, so it's just my passion.
What a way to network, actually. So now you're not investment manager anymore. You are super connector. This is your new job title.
Yeah.
So because of that, so that means that it just set you on your, I guess, leadership style, and that's clearly, I mean, helping others grow clearly is very important to you. But that also means helping the organization grow and integrating data teams well within the organization. So, to you, what are the drivers to successful data teams?
I think there are some things that I can definitely see as sort of universally good things. I think it's setting up a team that consists of kind people who are curious and who are humble about other people's knowledge. I think that's absolutely crucial because I know that, like, in the beginning when data was starting to become a hype and everybody was wanting to do data, there was like this rock star thing where people would hire these kind of arrogant people who would come in and tell everyone about how badly they'd been working and how they should just do what this person was saying and then everything would be perfect. And I mean, I've never met a person who wants to do things when somebody's just told you that you're stupid and haven't done the right thing. It's just not going to work.
I'm just picturing in my mind someone coming in being like, I'm the data person, I know better than you. You've been doing everything wrong, we will do it again my way. Yeah, I don't want to work with that person either.
No one wants to work with that person. But I do think I can see that it's changed a lot over the years. And I know that, like, when I was growing the team at SEB, so when I was the chief data scientist at a Nordic bank, I was kind of fortunate enough to grow my own team. So we started with 2 people. And at the end, when I left, there was 18 of us. And I think quite early on, I decided that I would only go for kind and curious people who are sort of, curious in the sense that you're humbly curious about what others are doing. And because, I mean, it's fascinating to meet like a client executive who's been working with large corporations for 20 years. The amount of knowledge they have. And when you can see that sort of that dialogue becoming curiosity from both sides, and when you're kind, then people start to dare to ask questions that they might not dare to ask otherwise. So you really need that sort of safe space where they can sit down and have a nice time, maybe drink some coffee, maybe have a joke, but really, just find each other, because we're all humans. And if we want to work together, we need to at least tolerate each other and show respect.
Yeah, that's very important, especially the showing respect to the others, which is very key. So how do you assess someone's curiosity? Because, I mean, I think a lot of people are talking about the importance of being curious in the field. I think you more than most that I've heard, but definitely a common theme. But how do you, because interviews are quite short in general. So let's say maybe an hour, you will see the person 2-3 times. But you can test technical skills, you can test some industry knowledge, you can test how they collaborate, but how do you test their curiosity?
That's a very good question. I think the structure that I've sort of gone with when I've been recruiting people for my team has been that usually sort of the hiring manager starts with a 30-minute meeting, and that's just to get to know you as a human. So it doesn't have anything to do with technical skills. For me, it's always really important to have a good balance of personalities in the team. So not everybody needs to be super curious. It's fine if someone's sort of a very niche specialist in something, if that's what the team needs. So I always try to find like a good balance of personalities, backgrounds, culture, age, attitude, so that you can have like a well-rounded and open environment. Because I think if you can manage to have a team that's well balanced with enough sort of people from different backgrounds, then nothing is normal and everything is different, and it allows for everyone to really find the space to be themselves. And if you want to be a good and successful data team, then you have to have that space to be yourself, and you have to have that sort of safety to laugh at how stupid your model is or how crappy the data is, and it needs to be done with joy and not sort of being afraid or being told that you're not doing a good job, because I think that's important. I think when it comes to curiosity, I think you can tell when you're just sort of talking about life in general. If a person is sort of, reading about random things, or maybe has a surprising hobby, or, just talking to them as humans, you can quite often see if they are curious in the way that I think you need to be truly successful with data.
Yeah, that's a very fair point. I think people, especially more junior people, sometimes they struggle to let that show, because I know when I started working, I was very conscious of, especially because I started working in Paris, so it's another level of being formal. I don't think I can go back to work in France now. But so, you're so conscious of wanting to show that you're very professional and you can do the job, that maybe sometimes you don't let that go through, but you sharing how important that is hopefully will help some people. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think in general, like the interview situation, some people just sort of, I think, get it wrong. I mean, the interview is there for the candidate to figure out if they like the person that they're meeting, and for the person that they're meeting to figure out if they think it's a good fit for the team. It goes both ways. It's not like, I think that's super important. It's something that I'm absolutely sort of always driving. That, like, whatever company you are, you should always be joyful and grateful if someone wants to come and work for you.
So not doing the other way, where you feel like you are entitled to have people coming to work with you.
Yeah, exactly. That's horrible.
That's I love that. It's just talking with you. It's just, you have such a great energy. So now I'm like, I started being, oh my God, I don't know what I'm doing. So now I'm very happy. So I wish we had this conversation this morning. My day would have gone much better, I think. I will take it with me for tomorrow.
Yes.
To close the episode, I would like to ask you what it is that, if you could share any type of resource that you're using for your personal or career development.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so I've sort of fallen in love with the Harvard Business Review small booklets that you can buy. So when I've been living in Amsterdam, I've flown quite a lot, and at Schiphol at the airport they sell them. So every time I'm there, I'm like, okay, what do I want to learn about? And what I like about them is that it's sort of academic research, but academic research that's super applied in industry. And of course, having done theoretical math, I didn't really do that much application. So it's really nice to read these sort of very well thought through tips and tricks about things. So there's one of my favorites is called Change Management 2.0. And it's all about how you can actually sort of in a structured way drive change in companies. And I've read it several times, especially some of the articles are really, really good. And I enjoy the breadth of the book series, because I think it's important to always, to have some sort of a small thing that you're thinking about. Maybe I could be better at this, or maybe there's something that I'm missing. You know, we all have blind spots, and life is all about trying to identify those blind spots and then figuring out if you can either replace that blind spot with something, or if you need another human to help you, because no one is perfect.
I mean, you can't do it yourself anyways. I do believe that learning and development is a teamwork.
Yes.
Yeah. I like the idea of the booklet. I can totally see which one you're talking about. So when I fly home, it's a 8 hours flight, which is very long. And I always either take a book or stop like you do at the shop at the airport. And I have to say that there was a time where I actually bought one of the HBR one. But more recently, I don't know why I tend to navigate to the food ones, which doesn't make any sense because I'm not cooking as much as I used to. I just like to read about food first.
Yeah, that always goes in waves for me. I have times when I read completely other things. Maybe some fantasy or science fiction or just silly books.
Silly books are the best.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much, Salla, for joining me on the podcast today. It was a pleasure and I had the best time.
Thank you for the invitation. It was an absolute honor.
Thank you for listening to the Women in Data podcast. We will be back in a couple of weeks with a new guest. Until then, if you have 2 minutes, it would be great if you could leave us a rating or a review, as it helps not only to make the podcast more visible, but also to enhance the content. If you don't want to miss the next episode, follow us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. We are also on LinkedIn. And if you wish to, you can even register to the community